From hobby farmers to weekend gardeners and everyone in between, Tractor Supply trusts 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to make shopping more personal. Together, we're connecting over 2,200 stores with 5G business internet and powering AI so team members can match shoppers with products faster.
You're all set.
This is enriching customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
It's time to get inside the Giants Huddle.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
On Giants.com.
I like it, I like it.
And the Giants mobile app.
Boom, give me some juice.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's roll.
Welcome to another edition of the Giants Huddle Podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk. Today, we welcome in our team that we like to bring in every time the Giants play internationally. That is the guys from the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast, Craig Rigdon, Dan Aylett, and Shane Whitehouse. Their colleague Kevin McManus can't be with us today, but happy to talk to the trio here about the international scene in the NFL and the New York Football Giants. Gentlemen, how you doing today?
Well, good, John. Thank you for having us. Hope you're having a good day as well, buddy.
Yeah, we are. So, Dan, why don't we start with you here, and then you guys can kind of just take any direction you want. I get the sense that the Germans in their core are maybe even bigger NFL people than the folks over in the UK were before the NFL started going there a few years ago. There's probably a little bit of a thicker base there from the history with NFL Europe. Just give me some insight into Germany, the fan base, the excitement level, and how maybe it's a little bit similar or different to what Giant fans may have encountered with the Giants playing in the UK a few times already.
Yeah, I definitely think the German fan base is passionate. Like you said, they've had a more of a longer standing following the game. Obviously with the NFL Europe, like you said, and they've had a passion for this game for a long time, and we sort of joined them afterwards, in the sort of mid 2000s. Well, me personally anyway, joined them in the mid 2000s, and it's just sort of grown from there. Obviously, the first game back in 2007, and with the Giants coming over in 2007, it sort of made me a lot more interested in the game than I was previously. So the fan base in Germany is definitely a passionate one, and they're definitely excited for the Giants coming over for the first time, playing a regular season game there, and we're all looking forward to being in Munich too.
What's the demand been, guys, for the tickets and just people trying to get into these games? This is the third year, I believe, right, for Germany. You had Mahomes last year, Brady the year before that coming in. Really good game last year there. Is the demand still really off the charts?
Yeah, 100%. I think I was the one who was lucky enough to get the tickets for us, and I think I was about 120,000th in the queue and managed to pick up maybe the last few tickets about 2 minutes before they sold out. I think there were people who were in the queue and it hit over 1 million at one point. So when you're joining and you have 1 million people in front of you, I think that's time to give up, because I'm not sure what the capacity on the Allianz is, but it's definitely less than 120,000. So if I was lucky enough, I can't imagine they were. But the demand's been there for years. Every year that they've done it in Germany, the ticket queues have been up in the millions, and they've been quite lucky with the teams that they got. Obviously, they've had Seattle, New England. They had the Chiefs out there as well. So they've had some big names, and I don't think you can really underestimate the pull of the Giants internationally either.
Yeah, and Shane, why don't I go with you with that then? Is there a pretty decent Giant fan base, you think, in Germany? Is this going to be a crowd that's dominated by Giant fans rather than Carolina Panther fans, even though it's a Panther home game?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a couple of years ago, we had the game at Tottenham, and the Giants from Germany came over, and they brought a massive following over here. And I think when you tie that in with the fact that, the Giants have got a pretty good record when they're not playing in America, I definitely think, that's going to be a key as to why fans might want to turn up, as well as that they're probably more hopeful of getting a win. But, the German fans, they're, I think that they're already motivated to have the game anyway, but I think probably because the UK have had the Giants three times now, they're probably going to want to go a little bit more and a little bit further and kind of show why the Giants chose Germany as their kind of Europe-based team.
Yeah, 3-0 in those recent international games, rather. They've had success out there, which is great. So why don't we turn our attention to the actual game here, guys? And Dan, I'm gonna hand off the hosting duties to you for about 3-4 minutes here. get into it with your two guys. What you expect from the Giants coming into this game, and kind of what you've seen recently, and kind of where your guys as a show and a group is, as to where the Giants are now heading into game number 10. Believe it or not.
I mean, you'd be wrong to say it's been an exciting start to the season. I think, we all went into the year with relatively high expectations, and it's just all come crashing down over the last 9 weeks. And I mean, we've seen some okay performances, this past weekend being one of them. But the offense this year just hasn't clicked for whatever reason. And obviously a lot of that has been sort of fingers pointing towards Daniel Jones. It's not just down to him. The offense is a team. They're a collective and they work together. And it's just been frustrating as a Giants fan to see just not competitive football over the last 10 years, really, since we've really been successful in this league. And I don't know about you guys, but I mean, we week in, week out, we we talk through each game, we review each game, and we preview each game. And there's a little bit of hope going into when we're doing the preview episodes on a Thursday evening. And by Sunday night, Monday morning, that hope is gone. And by Tuesday, when we're recording our review episodes, it's just all out sort of venting session. We actually call them our therapy sessions, because it is like therapy talking about these games. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but you have that little bit of hope going into the weekend, and then it's completely dashed come Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, this past Sunday, we had our UK Giants meet up with the sort of co-hosted with the UK Giants fans on Facebook, which is a group we have over here. And I think the numbers we were hoping for at the beginning of the season were maybe halved as to what we actually got on Sunday. But we still had hope. We watched the game and we enjoyed it together, and we critique it. And one thing, as Dan rightly said, is we enjoy doing the review and the preview podcasts, and it just gives us maybe a slightly better way of breaking down a game and looking at a game maybe objectively slightly more than some of the other fans in the UK. And that's one thing that we love and our listeners love is that we're able to kind of break it down on that molecular level and maybe look at it maybe more as an American sports fan than as a British fan looking at an American sport. But the meetup was tough to a degree. I do think that we still have some optimism going into the Panthers game this weekend. I mean, it's two teams who really haven't set the world alight this season, and the Carolina team who still, to this moment that we're recording, I don't think they've actually chosen a quarterback yet, which is indicative of exactly how that play is going for them. So it's two teams who, they might be in the ascendancy after a win, but two teams who really need a kind of good get-right game as opposed to a close get-right game.
Shane, how about
Shane,
you?
Shane's normally our optimist. Shall I say optimist? No, he is the most pessimistic of all of us. So it'd be interesting, obviously, to see how he views this weekend's game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that we all kind of do every week is we review the last game, then we preview the upcoming game, and realistically, we might turn around and say, yeah, you know what, look at our record, the offense just isn't quite doing what we want it to do, so we're going to predict a loss more times than not, in all honesty. But then I think come game day, when that kickoff happens, some sort of hope gets pulled into us, and we're like, actually, you get a couple of drives and you start thinking, oh yeah, maybe we can do this. We force the opposition to go 3 and out, and it's kind of the hope that kills you at times, to be honest. But I mean, I don't know what I'll predict for this upcoming weekend game. I've not decided yet, but either way, I'll be hopeful and optimistic when the game starts. And kind of one of the things that's big over here, and what was big with watching the Washington defeat on Sunday, when we did the meetups, we met up at the start of the season for the season opener, and we met up for this past weekend. The NFL is still growing a little bit, and none of my personal mates really follow it, but obviously I'll get to share these moments with these guys, and it makes the defeats just a little bit easier to take when you're watching it with fellow fans, rather than kind of having no one to talk to. You got someone to vent towards, and we all bounce off each other, which I think definitely helps, and that includes the community that we've built that interact with us on match days and every time we record.
You're ready for a change. Payday comes early with Citizens, so go to that retreat. New You moves to the country. Now you're raising goats and launching a lifestyle brand. Are you ready for all that life brings?
The best part of football season? Checking out the post-game stats. Which wideouts scored more than 2 touchdowns? Which QBs threw for less than 350 yards? Think you can pick who will do what before kickoff? Then play Pick 6 from DraftKings, an official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, select between 2 and 6 players, and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. It's that simple. And for all first-time Pick 6 players, check this out. New customers play $5 on your first pick set, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code DK1. That's code DK1 for new customers to play $5 on your first pick set, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Non-withdrawable. Pick 6 credits expire in 6 months. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Giants Huddle podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. From game day celebrations to your everyday financial needs, Big Blue fans can get the most out of every moment with Citizens. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. So you're right, guys. The Giants right now are at 15.4 points per game, fewest points per game in the National Football League. So I think if you want to get a common thread throughout the year, it's been the offense's inability to score points. But you look at last week's game, and the offense actually played pretty well, and all of a sudden the defense lets you down. To go a week prior to that, you have the kickoff, the punt return for a touchdown against the Steelers that you allow to happen. Special teams get you. You had the game where Graham going to hurt his hamstring. Special teams gets you in that game. And this isn't a season. This is kind of the way I've been phrasing it over here. This isn't a season like last year when once all the offensive linemen go out, Andrew Thomas isn't there, you're playing your third-string quarterback, and you head into every game. You're just sitting there hoping, all right, maybe at halftime it's close so we can figure out a way to squeeze something out. You know, aside from the Eagles game and the Vikings game, they've been competitive in a lot of these games. They've been one score. Every other game has been a one-score game in the fourth quarter. Unlike 2022, they haven't been able to pull them out. It's either been lack of big plays of guys playing above the X's and O's, or flat-out mistakes like drops, or things like penalties, shooting themselves in the foot in all three aspects of the game. And just a frustration level where I think this team is more talented than the 2022 team was that made the playoffs and won a playoff game. I think this team's better. But unlike that team in 22, they just, instead of figuring out ways to, win games at the end, they're figuring out a way to lose games at the end, which is kind of what, for me at least, has made this season so frustrating.
Yeah, and I think what we've seen as well is a lack of complementary football. We're not seeing the offense and how many times this year have we seen the defense do their thing and get a 3 and out or force a fumble and give the offense the opportunity to put points on the board, and they just don't take the opportunity.
Yep.
Special teams as well. There's been issues on special teams like with punt returns, and obviously we're on our third kicker now for the season, on our second punter as well for the season, and it's just kind of like not everything is clicking and not everything is sort of falling into place for us to be able to win a game. And like you said, good teams find a way to win, bad teams find a way to lose, and this isn't a bad team collectively as a whole. Like you said, the roster is probably more talented than it was in 2022. But for some reason, it's just not firing on all cylinders. And, you look at various different social media outlets, and there's always someone blaming the coaches. There's always someone blaming the quarterback. There's always someone blaming a receiver for dropping the ball. There's always someone blaming, defensive secondary for not making an interception or, soft coverage. And it's like, it can be all of these things combined, or it could just be the fact that we just don't have the luck. The rub, just the rub of the green almost. And it just, the frustrating thing is we are close to winning games, but like you said, those games that are really close, we just don't get over the line. And I don't know what it is, but it's just not happening this year.
There's a lot to be said for what you said there, Dan, about complementary football and having it in all phases. As you rightly mentioned, with special teams has been decimated. Andrew Thomas is out, and obviously that's not going to be a specific root cause, but it's obviously not going to help when your best offensive player potentially is not on the field at that time. But one other thing that we do have is a hell of a young roster, like one of the youngest in the league. And I think that that's a real big point that I think maybe we don't pick up on as often as maybe we should. That do we just kind of have to eat the pain for this season, maybe one more season, in order for us to reap the benefits? Because we do have pieces. You know, you look at the draft class from this year, you look at Nubin, you look at Phillips, you look at Nabers, they've all performed to, you know, like
Crazy.
steady pro level in games. There's just not the consistency there, which is what you expect from a rookie class. And I do think that the changing of the DC to Shane Bowen, obviously that then has a lot of our veteran players having to second guess some of their schemes that they're having to learn. So I think there's a lot of learning happening this year at the Giants, and maybe that's contributed to some of the issues that you see on the field.
How about you, Shane? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the National Football League is the most competitive league out there, and I think the margin for error is so fine, and we've not quite got that balance yet as to where it is. I mean, you know, you hear Dex and Burns have both come out and said that, like Dan just said, it's not a bad team. I know that kind of close. I mean, obviously, it's going to be an interesting off-season when we get there, because obviously there's questions about the quarterback position at the moment and what's going to happen there, and could a change in the guard there potentially see our fortunes change. Who knows? But we'll worry about that when we kind of get to it. You know, at the end of the day, we've still got to remain competitive for the rest of this season. There's still fans that are going to turn up week after week wanting to see a competitive team put out there. But like, you know, as I think it was Craig, like you said, you know, or Dan, good teams find ways to win, and bad teams find ways to lose. And I think the Giants, is it something like 5 of the last 6 or 6 of the last 7 years, they've had an opening, they've lost the first losing record, the first 8 games of the season. So I just think losing is kind of just what they used to kind of thing, but that shouldn't be the way that it is. And I think when they can overcome that, you know, hopefully then we can start to see a little bit of change of fortunes.
Big picture question. I want all 3 of you guys to answer this, because you're probably going to have different opinions. Long term for this team, for them to take that next step and get to the level that we all want them to get to, aside from the quarterback position, let's push that aside. What either player is most important for this roster to develop into a star for them to take the next step? Or at what spot do you think they need to make a key addition to get improvement in that area for this team to, again, get where we want it to go? Excluding the quarterback position, obviously understanding that's the easy answer that I think everyone knows that's what people are going to answer. But if it's not the quarterback, then Dan, start with you. What do you think it would be?
I mean, for me, it's a secondary, it's corner. Deontay Banks is a great talent, and I think last year in his rookie year as cornerback 2, he excelled in that role, and he had a really, really stellar rookie year. This year he's come out as, you know, second season CB1, and he struggled. Is that position too big for him as that sort of first choice cornerback? I think maybe it is at this point in time in his career, in his development. I think we in the off season, in sort of free agency, we need to look at bringing in a veteran cornerback that has been there and done it in this league and has played that position for multiple years. I think if we brought a player in, you know, that's had multiple years of experience at that position, that can help him take that step and make that step to become a better player all round, you know, become better in coverage, become better. Just, you know, we saw his little mistake at the weekend against Washington by, you know, one-on-one against Terry McLaurin, and he sort of leads him inside and he just goes outside. And a veteran doesn't make that mistake, or very rarely will make that mistake. So for me, corner is such an important position. Our secondary is so young as well. You look at, you know, Cordell Flott, we've got, you know, Drew Phillips, we've got, there's the really, really young players there. And I think they really need that trusted veteran that's got a few years experience to give them that leadership and give them that sort of, you know, just a guiding light maybe. So yeah, for me, it's corner.
Craig?
Corner was pretty much going to be my pick. I think it's a unanimous kind of area of need for the Giants. You know, we've just released Nick McLeod, which is a slightly strange decision. But Adoree Jackson's supposed to be the vet there, but Adoree's not seeing the field as much. And obviously he came in halfway through the season, so it wasn't like we were chomping at the bit to get him early. But if you look at a player who maybe could become a cornerstone that we currently have on the roster, I don't really think you can look past JMS at the center position. I think the center position is so underrated because, you know, the quarterback and the center know each other pretty damn well because they normally stood pretty close to each other. And the whole mechanic of an offensive play starts with the center snapping the ball to the quarterback. So regardless of who ends up being there, the corner's going to be, the center is going to be that cornerstone that really helps with the fluidity of the play. And JMS has had a rough start maybe last year, but I think he's come on leaps and bounds this year. And if he just continues that progression, we're looking at somebody who can anchor the line for years and years to come. And that's what you need. You need consistency at that position, because if you're chopping and changing every year like we did for a few years, I just think it kind of makes it harder to try and instill confidence not only on the line but in the quarterback as well.
Yeah, I mean, Dan's hit the nail on it in terms of cornerback. I'd 100% get there, but just to kind of get a different answer, I'd probably say the defensive line, and in terms of the depth there, because you notice when Dexter Lawrence, he's the best defensive player in the National Football League. There's no questions about it. We've heard it. He should be up for contention for Defensive Player of the Year. But you do notice that when he steps off the field, you can see him missing every time there's a big run. You look and you're like, oh yeah, Dex ain't on the field. But then outside of that, if you look at the edge depth, obviously Thibodeau's injured at the minute. Yeah, okay, we've got Brian Burns in for 5 years, but Aziz is going to be a free agent in the off season. There's chatter about him potentially being traded at the deadline this week. Today, I believe it is. And then even if he doesn't get traded, he's going to be a free agent. What money is he going to potentially want? Let's face facts, he's a top 10 pass rusher in the National League right now. I think he's 9th or 10th in terms of sacks. So for me, it's kind of the depth at the defensive line, edge position as well. And kind of, we do really struggle with the run. No matter what we do, it seems to be, when we eyed Shane Bowen, one of the things that Brian Daboll turned around and said was about Bowen's run defense and how good it was in Tennessee. But yet when Dex comes off that field, it's something that we still seem to struggle with year after year.
No, great answers, guys. I think all of you guys hit things right out of the park.
You love turf. You're good at it. So you start a turf biz. Business grows, your savings grow. Become the most celebrated name in turf. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Hey guys, this is Matt Jones, Drew Franklin from the Fade This podcast. We got a great episode coming up, picks in all the sports, football, basketball, we do them all, but here's a preview of this week's episode. All right, what's our first game?
Well, I did want to ask Dabo before we start. I mean, you were down 13 and you decided to kick an extra point instead of going for 2. What was the reasoning
Well,
behind
the Lord
that?
does the math differently. God believes in different numbers than you. We count not to win games, Billy. We count for Lord Jesus Christ.
You only live for one.
That's right. Okay. All right. There we go. What's up?
With that.
And this episode was brought to you in partnership with DraftKings. To hear more, listen and subscribe to Fade This on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Giants Huddle is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. Citizens will donate $750 to the Giants Foundation for each scoring drive during the 2024 season. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. What do each of you guys think of what you see out of Malik Nabers so far? Dan, start with you, and then you can go around the horn.
I mean, the first 2-3 games before his concussion, and the offense was pretty much running through him. The amount of targets over the first few games he had was, I think, we've never seen the likes of that before. And he just looked like the real deal. He looked like the talent level was through the roof, and we'd found an absolute steal with a 6th overall pick. Obviously, since the concussion, he's not been as productive, but I think because, we've had more of a run game since then. So there's not necessarily having to go through him all the time. He's potentially been let down by the amount of drops he's had. And the look on Saturday with him talking to Jane Daniels on the sideline in the fourth quarter during the timeout isn't a great look either. So maybe he needs to sort of be a little bit more aware of what to do and what not to do during a game. But I think potential there to be Odell Beckham like. I think he can potentially help this team to success, and I think he's definitely got a huge amount of talent. But it's been a up and down rookie year for him so far, and I think going into the second half of the year after the bye week, I think we really need to see him sort of iron out the mistakes and iron out the drops and really sort of help this team to progress and get a few wins under our belt.
And if one of you guys want to hit on Tyrone Tracy instead, you can do that too. Craig?
Yeah, so maybe we could call Brian Dable Nostradamus, but obviously during Hard Knocks, he spoke to Malik Nabers about frustrations and what happens when you get frustrated. And I think we're kind of seeing that a little bit now after the last few weeks, where he's starting to get frustrated with maybe some of either the play calls or the fact that the ball's not going to him where he wants it, because he's still getting the targets. And I do think that he's going to be a phenomenal receiver for us. And as Dan rightly said, it does almost feel like the second coming of Beckham, which is easy to say because he's an LSU wide receiver, but LSU produce. That's all they seem to do at that position is produce. So it's nice to see that. You mentioned Tyrone Tracy. What a find that is. Converted wide receiver to running back. I mean, we should have given him more touches early. He comes in when Singletary goes out for that one game, and all of a sudden we have a 100-yard rusher on our hands. And the one thing that I really, really like about Tracy is he's a downhill runner.
Yeah.
For seasons, I've been screaming for somebody who just runs. It's central. Like, we don't need to run between the tackle outside of the tackles every single time we have a runner. Like, can we please just go between the guard and the center and pick up a few yards? Because if there's one thing that we've noticed with him is that you're picking up the chip yards, the 2s, the 3s, the 4s. And as long as you get a couple of 3s and a 4, you're going to get a first down. So it's just nice to kind of see us maybe open up the playbook a little bit by leaning on him a little bit. And don't forget, he is a slightly older player as well, but he doesn't have as much tread on the tires, as they say, with a running back. He hasn't been doing the position for that long. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what he can bring, because it does look like he is number one at the moment in the terms of that room.
Yeah, I mean, look, with Malik Nabers, I mean, how can you not get excited by what potentially he's got, what he's shown through the first half of the season? It just makes you think, once he's used to the league and he cuts out the drops. I mean, he's having a few drops. Are the drops the biggest problem for the Giants offense right now? Probably not, if we're completely honest. So that they're not ideal, of course not, but it's not the reason we are losing week in, week out at the end of the day. And what I think we got to remember with Malik Nabers, he's a rookie at the end of the day, and he's only halfway through his first season. Yeah, he's probably starting to get a lot more kind of double coverage now. Teams giving him a lot more attention. And he would have seen that when he was at LSU in college. The difference is, rather than having another occupational guy covering him like he was in college, guys who realistically were there to, pass out from university and not looking to go into the National Football League. He's now coming up against guys whose job is to lock him down. That's the reason they're paid, and that's the reason they pay the big bucks. So I think, there's going to be some adapting for him, but I think when he kind of gets it, he can easily be one of the best wide receivers in the league and follow on from that LSU trend. And in regards to Tyrone Tracy, how nice it to finally get some production from a 5th round pick. It seems like these days 3 picks is something that the Giants have kind of struggled for the last few years, and now they're starting to get that production, and it's great to see. He's a Saquon Barkley, not quite as electric or as exciting as him, but in regards to the way that he, lowers his pads and kind of gets downfield quickly, you absolutely love to see it.
And obviously a much cheaper option too, getting him in the draft rather than having to pay Saquon what you did in the offseason. And and I think that's the best argument of why you don't pay a running back, that you can find a guy like Tracy in round 5, right? And I think we've seen with running backs, you can do that. A couple more. I'm sure much like you guys, or much like myself, you guys have been tired about talking about the Giants offensive line for the last 10 years and how they're going to figure things out. It's far from perfect. You would rather have done it through the draft. You had to bring in some vets. That's fine. You pivot. You do what you got to do. But I think for once, the offensive line isn't what's holding this team back, aside from the left tackle problem. Once Andrew Thomas went out, I think they were okay against in the prior game, but the 2 games before, I think you had some issues. Are you guys just as pleased as I am that the offensive line isn't this, anchor weighing you down on every single thing you try to do when you talk about this team?
Massively. I mean, we've spoken about it at length on our podcast for the last couple of years. The offensive line, the offensive line, the offensive line. The fact that we haven't had to mention the offensive line much this season is telling in itself. Obviously with the Andrew Thomas injury, it's disappointing, and having our best, one of the best tackles in the league, go out for the rest of the season with an injury is extremely disappointing. But yes, we've had Hubbard come in there the last couple of games. He may not be great in pass protection, but he's definitely helping in the run game for sure. And it's almost like, so if we can find someone that will complement him at that position that is good in pass protection, but not so much in the run game, then maybe so they can sort of like switch in and out of the game. Who knows? But it's so nice just to have consistency. Jermaine Illuminor is at that right tackle spot. He's made that position his own. And, Van Roten and Runyon coming in at guard just to bring just that veteran presence on the line for the young centre in the middle, like Craig mentioned him earlier. He's only in his second year, and he almost looks like he's mature beyond his years, because so far this year, you haven't, apart from the Kobe Dean sack against the Eagles a couple of weeks ago, we've barely mentioned his name, and that's testament to him. And I think it's great to have that consistency on the line that we've seen so far. Albeit at left tackle, we had a few struggles recently, but that's injuries happen. You've got to expect that. It's a physical game, so it just remains to be seen what we do moving forward at left tackle. Whether we stick with Hubbard, whether we go with somebody else, we'll find out no doubt after the bye week, because there'll probably be some decisions made then.
Greg, is there like extra love for Jermaine Illuminor given his UK roots? I know he's spent a lot of time in America by now, but you talk to him and the way he says certain words, the accents will leak out from time to time. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. Is there extra love for Illuminor based on his heritage and where he's from?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that there was some excitement for us when Jermaine joined the team. We went back and forth with him on X a couple of times.
Nice.
Over it. So he's one of those players who's really engaging with the fans, I think, on X, which is nice to see as well. Like he's not afraid to kind of speak his mind. I'm not sure about his fashion sense before a game. That's maybe beyond the British side of things. Maybe that's the American in him coming out. That's definitely not one for us. But taking it on a slight tangent, it's also nice because we have Graham Gano who's Scottish. We have Jamie Gillan who's Scottish. You've got Duke McTavish who's Irish. Like the Giants have historically always been a team that is not afraid to go international with their players. We've had OC, who was from the UK as well. There's always been there, but I think it's nice to sort of speak about Jermaine and also speak about the fact that he's been so solid this season. Like as a right tackle, he's been everything we've missed for so long. And as Dan said, when you're not talking about the offensive line, it's almost a good thing, because they're just doing their job. Like it's one of those unsung positions where they probably don't get as much love as they maybe should get, because people, if you don't notice them, they're doing a good job. They only really get pulled up when they're not having a good game, and that's when the sort of narrative comes out. I think Runyon and Van Roten have been unsung heroes. I know they don't grade well, but there's only so much you can read into gradings from certain publications. So I think it's been much improved, and it's just nice to have. I know Thomas isn't here now, but up until the point where Thomas was injured, every single member of that 5-man offensive line had played every single snap on offense.
Yep.
And that's something I genuinely cannot remember the last time we saw.
Absolutely. And Shane, he kind of mentioned Jude McAtomney getting a chance to kick last week. He's part of the International Pathway Program. I got to imagine, given his roots, people were pretty pumped up to see him kick the football last week. I'm going to have him on the Giants Huddle podcast on Friday. I have not talked to him yet. I'm going to talk to him either tomorrow or Thursday. I'm pumped up to do it. Just your thoughts on him, and Do you guys have any extra stuff on Jude I could ask him about that? Maybe common knowledge that I might not be that familiar.
Yeah, I mean, any time someone from this side of the pond gets picked up by the Giants, there's always kind of a little bit of soft spot there rooting for them. So when he got picked up in the off season, kind of to attend the mini camp, we were all rooting for him to kind of get a gig on the team kind of thing. And obviously he went through the international pathway program, so doesn't count towards the initial roster. And then obviously when you see, I mean, when Gano went down, there's a little bit of hope that maybe he'll be thrust into it there, and it didn't quite happen. But then obviously with the second kicker going down and him stepping up there, it was great to see him do it the weekend. I do know that Kev, who is another guy that does the podcast with us that can't be on tonight, Jude actually grew up 20 minutes away from where Kev grew up, in Derry, I believe it is. So you could probably throw Derry out there to Jude, and that'll be off to a good start with Indy. But if we could maybe see Jude kick like a game-winning field goal on the weekend, I'm sure that would please the international fans over here.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I think we'd love to see that too. All right, final question, guys, and then I'll give you a chance to talk about everything you're doing so fans know where to check you out and find you. Right now, who's the most popular Giant with international fans? Like, who are you seeing the most jerseys of? Who are fans really kind of gravitating to? I'd like to see if you guys are in agreement on this or you have a couple different opinions.
That's a great question. I think for me personally, it's Dexter Lawrence.
I'm with you on that. I agree.
He's just a human wrecking ball, and like Shane said earlier, if he should be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year this year because he's having a year unlike any other. He just epitomizes everything there is about this Giants defense, and the fact that he's a nose tackle and he's leading the league in sacks so far through 9 weeks is unheard of. The only other player really to do that is on that sort of level is Aaron Donald, and look what happened with him. Multiple times Defensive Player of the Year, multiple times voted All-Pro into the Pro Bowl, and will likely be in the Hall of Fame very, very soon. So, he's playing at that sort of level, and so he's definitely very popular on our podcast, and he's no doubt popular over this side of the pond as well.
Do you guys agree with that? Do you think it might be someone else?
I think Dexter Lawrence is the kind of favorite there. Weirdly enough, I don't have a Dexter Lawrence jersey so far this year. Bobby Okereke and Mr. Brian Burns has been the two purchases. I think that's kind of indicative though of how the Giants fans view the Giants team at the moment, that they're all defensive players so far, and I'm pretty sure I could put money on where Shane's going to go for potentially his answer here, being on the offense, probably the only person that anyone's going to buy at the moment on the offense. So let's see if I'm right.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you've got to give Sexy Dexy the love without a doubt. He is one of the most popular. But, could number one, Malik Nabers, overtake him? Absolutely. If I was to buy a jersey tomorrow, it's going to be out of them two guys. And it probably should be Dex I'd initially buy just because he's been here a little bit longer and I want to show him in that love and shout him out, with the way he's performed, especially over kind of the last 3 years. He's been absolutely outstanding. But I 100% think that, Malik is going to overtake that one. I mean, the biggest one prior to this season would obviously have been the guy that used to wear 26. And now we've got no really exciting or offensive player to go for, and then we draft Malik Nabers, and you've seen what he's done through the first kind of 8 weeks he's been playing, 9 weeks minus those games he's missed through injuries. He's going to get fans excited, and I think number one will start getting repped a lot more over the next year or two.
Yeah, I can see 29 getting some love too if he keeps producing a running back too. I can see that being a jersey. But look, I'm happy. I was wondering how much overseas there was an appreciation for like the work in the trenches from a guy like Dexter. I'm happy that fans understand exactly how unique he is and how special he is, because man, he is a lot of fun to watch. All right. So Dan, tell us where everybody can find your guys' work, your podcast, everything like that. And then I want a prediction from each one of three of you guys with the score for the game against the Panthers on Sunday. And I will hold you to it. Dan, lead us off.
Awesome. Well, you can find us on X, Facebook, and YouTube as well. We're at Big Blue UK and Ireland. We are the UK and Ireland's only Giants podcast. We're very active on our social media channels. You can also find us on TikTok as well. Not so active on there, but we're working on that. And we've got a core of diehard followers, and as much as we can spread the love and talk Giants football to those that want to listen to it, we'll do this week in, week out for the love of the team. We are all fans at the end of the day, but it's like Craig said earlier, we sort of do it from a slightly different perspective. So it's kind of it's just an absolute joy to see this week in, week out. And some of the connections we've made through doing this as well is unbelievable. And obviously being on with yourself, John, I've been a Giants fan since mid 2000s, and obviously I've followed your work since then for a long time. So it's an absolute joy and a pleasure to be on with you this evening. So really appreciate the love.
All right, and now predictions. I want predictions. Let's go.
Do I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Always go first. I mean, it's a Carolina team are they in the ascendancy? I don't know. They won one game last weekend. But I think the Giants, I don't see them losing abroad. I don't see them losing internationally. And, I think it's going to be there's going to be more Giants fans in that stadium in Munich on Sunday than there will be Panthers fans. We did the same at Twickenham in 2016 when we played the Rams in London. There were more Giants fans than there were Rams fans there, and it was a road game for the Giants. So I think that'll be the same case on Sunday. Prediction, I'm going to go to 23-17 Giants.
Very, very, very close. I was going to go 24-17. So
one score games. The Giants don't tend to win games by more than one score, so I get it. Shane, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with what I mentioned a little while ago, and that's McTominay kicking a game-winning field goal, and the Giants win 23-20.
I love it. Gentlemen, hopefully I'll see you out there. I'm getting out there with the team. We'll be there Friday morning. For fans that are going to the game, we'll be at the Hofbrauer House. That's kind of the Giants' home base of operations. We have an event there, a fan event on Friday night. Hopefully we'll see you guys out there. Enjoy the game. Thanks so much for being with us today, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sean.
That's the Giants Huddle Podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. We'll see you next time, everybody.
Lowe's knows you want to get even more value for the holiday. That's why, as a My Lowe's Rewards member, you get new member deals on holiday decor, tools, and more. And you earn points when you shop. More points equal more rewards to help you save on holiday and more. Not a member? Join for free today at Lowes.com/MyLowe'sRewards, because Lowe's knows deals. Program subject to terms and conditions. Points are awarded on eligible purchases. See Lowes.com/terms for full details, subject to change.
Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food, no matter what you're craving. From 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings. Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week all season long. Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now for game day. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.